More on this, we're joined by Awol Allo. He's a lecturer at Keele University and also a specialist on the Horn of Africa. Thanks so much for speaking to us here on TRT World. Now tell us, what is the appetite to strike? Eid is next week and the opposition is just so divided right now.
So the opposition have been trying to get the military council to agree on this sticking issue, which is the sovereign council, on the composition of the sovereign council. Both the military council and the opposition want control of the sovereign council, who would have ultimate authority on political issues during this 3-year transitional period. So the military council have not been moving on that issue. And now the majority of the opposition that are part of this coalition called the Forces for Freedom and Change wanted to pressure the military council by way of a protest. And there are some within the opposition coalition who had a different view as to how best to pressure the military council. I think what is important to remember is that the opposition coalition is a broad alliance of different actors who have different views about the future of Sudan, but also people who come from different backgrounds, including civil unions, professional associations, civil society, political parties. It also includes some armed movements who have been fighting against the same government they are negotiating with. So obviously a very broad coalition with different interests, and certainly you would expect this kind of situation when they don't have that kind of coherence and cohesion internally that is really crucial in terms of taking on the military.
And given that lack of coherence, do you think a lot of people will strike and that it will be successful?
I think it is going to be very difficult. These negotiations are bound to be difficult because political transitions are not really easy processes, especially when you are negotiating with a military power that traditionally controlled political authority in that country, and also military power that was responsible for some of the atrocities and the crimes that have been committed against people in that country. So one I think important example is that the situation in Darfur and South Kordofan. There has been militancy in the region for a very long time. In Darfur, some heinous crimes have been committed back in 2003, 2004. Some of the people who are in the military council are people who led the Sudanese army and various militias in those operations. So normally when you have the Darfuris, for example, as one of the most vocal forces within the opposition coalition and also negotiating with these military generals, you are bound to have these difficulties. And I think these discussions, these negotiations are bound to be very difficult. But the fact that the opposition doesn't have the cohesion and coherence internally that requires to present a common front and a common vision, I think makes the discussion even more difficult.
And what could be, a solution going forward? The army, well, they've called for immediate elections, but why aren't the protest groups supporting them? And what are the chances of these elections being free and fair, would you say?
The military council has not really been consistent in terms of what it is saying about elections. There are moments when the military council said, oh, okay, we are happy to conduct an election even in 3 months' time or 4 months' time, where in fact the possibility of organizing a democratic, a free election is almost impossible within those periods. So it is important that a conducive condition is facilitated and established on the ground in order for various parties to organize themselves, mobilize the people, organize people, come up with plans and manifestos around which they campaign and hold a free and democratic election. So the military has not been particularly clear, but also, most importantly, if the military is to retain control of the sovereign council, that would have the authority, for example, to declare a state of emergency, then the military council might be likely to intervene at any point and change the direction the country is going, or suspend even, for example, the possibility of election. So the opposition group have very good reason to be worried about the fact that the military council is insisting on control of the the Sovereign Council, but I think it is important for all parties to find a compromise on this issue. The opposition group cannot afford to continue to antagonize the military, and the military also cannot afford to ignore the opposition council, because the military does not have any legitimacy on the part of the Sudanese people. And I don't think it is possible from now on to rule the same way that al-Bashir, for example, rules the country.
Okay. Awol, thank you very much indeed. Awol Allo from Keele University there in the UK. Thank you.